International tractors of this era are renowned for being tough. Like, they are tougher than any John Deere piece of snot at the same time. Chamberlain, an Australian tractor, it's in the same sort of league, but they're not as tough as these Inters. They've got a tough arse end in them. They've got a good motor. The Noise motors are the best of them. They're made in the Germany factory, Noise, town in Germany, and they're really good. Like fucking 8,000 hours, you know. And I've never put a spanner on it. They're so tough. They have a downfall though, as all these international tractors from, like, this is the mid 80s, 84 I think this one is, one of the last built in this 86 series. Right back until, I'm guessing, the late 50s, early 60s, where they had two problems. Well, the biggest problem was the TA, the torque amplifier. They just weren't up to it. That was their downfall. Their Achilles heel was the torque amplifier. Everything else on it was pretty good. And the other spot they had was the gearbox and the back end, or the transfer case. It was also a problem. That was a problem, but the problem it had wasn't its weakness. It was, once they get a little bit of age on them, they become hard to get in and out of gear. And they're renowned for that. They're a pain in the arse at times. And what it is, it's a simple fix. It's a poor design. I don't know how they must have built hundreds of thousands of these tractors, or hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them. And on a normal transmission, you have an indent with rollers and springs and things to hold it in the gear. This doesn't. It has a spring, and it goes around, and these two rolling gears sort of go on each other, and it locks it into position. And the problem is, the spring breaks and drops off into the bottom of the transmission. Next thing, it's swinging in the breeze, you know, and it keeps on dropping out of ranges. And it's a simple fix. I've done it once before. I don't think most people know you can fix it. It's simple, but it's time consuming to actually get to. So, enough bullshit from me. So, we're back here on the B Series International 886. There you go, you can see it there behind me. And today's operation, next day's and however long it takes me is operation, is to fix this problem. The first thing I do is pull out the seat, the main part of the floor, and a bit of floor under the seat, because the transmission lid we need to get to is this one here, between here and here. So all this shifting mechanism has to come out, which doesn't matter. It will all be for the good. So that's all got to come out of there, which means this has to come off the side, which means, let's see if we can get over here, this here, all the range change and the 1, 2, 3, 4 has to come off the side. And being is this tractor's got front wheel assist, not most of them didn't, this transfer case, if you call it that, off the side here, it has to come off as well, because in behind here on a normal two-wheel drive tractor there's just a flat plate on here, but in behind here, out of that lid there, as the shaft drops down, hello Miss Molly, and it has a wood rough key that goes into the selector fork for the reverse gear, and you have to be able to get that back out and back in and hold the selector. So this has to come off, drive shaft, and that's about it. It's not a difficult job, it's time consuming and dirty. And you don't have to drop the oil out of the tractor, I don't think. I'm trying to remember now. I think all the oil's down below here. I'll find it when I pull the bolt out, won't I? Yeah, there's a few tricks to this. None of them are complicated. And I'll try to show you what I've learned, because I'm self-taught. I'm a farmer. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a diesel mechanic. I'm just a farmer. I've had these apart, right apart. I've had all the main gearbox apart. I've had the back end apart. This has done, I think, 8,700 hours. Okay, when you go to pull the lid off the box, got to make sure this is in park. And then you get a nut, so about a 3/4 or something. Got to slot the side out of it. And that, okay, you see that bit there? That's the park. That's when it's in neutral, or when it's out of park, should I say, or in gear. Alright, and so you've got to slide this here in under there, because otherwise the dog will be hooked onto the gear inside the gearbox. Push it back into park, and we're done. Okay, on this transfer case, you've got to pull the yoke off before you pull all the bolts out, because there's a bolt behind it, and it pays to do that before you put it out of park or lock the park out, so otherwise you can't stop this shaft from spinning. I suppose you could. It pays to do that before you disconnect all the linkages, which I didn't. On the rear side of this transfer case, there's an Allen key bolt that you normally can't see because it's all covered in cruds. Okay, let's see here. This is the selector fork, of course, for reverse. This here, fuck yeah, get in there, you whitlam. This here, let's get this back a bit. This here is the selector fork, and that drops out when you lift the top off. It's sitting there in the container, and just here, I don't know whether you can see it or not. Probably not if I've got the camera in the wrong spot, but it's a woodruff key. And this is why you need to pull the side off, because you'll never get the selector fork back in and on and in the right position just dropping it down, because there's nothing to hold that in the right position. So you just about need two people. I can do it on my own with that when the back end's out from under the tractor, but I don't know about here. I might have to get the boy to help me. I was yanking and pulling, had all the bolts out I thought, but there's a sneaky bolt on the back of the park here, the park link. I couldn't see that because I didn't have my lead light out and my eyes are getting old. So that needs to come out, and then this should just lift off. And the lid should just lift off with some persuasion. Please excuse my safety pluggers. Oh, God, who put that fat guts in the way? There we go, like that. Oh, fuck. How good's that? We're off. There's the spring. Look at it. Can you see it? Down here. That's the spring. How good's that? This here, that drops on a gear in a gearbox. That's your park. That locks on. And that's the one you've got to put this nut on underneath to hold that spring out. Otherwise this is locked around a gear inside the transmission. Okay, so here, this here goes around and the spring goes on there. I'll see if I put the spring back on, eh? Okay, spring's back on. That goes around. Where are we? You see that's the motion there. And the spring locks just up here a bit, just there, watch that. It locks it onto that notch. Okay, that's one of them, and here's reverse. Oh, that's high and low there, sorry, this is high and low, this one, from upside down. Alright. And this one here is reverse. Now the interlocking for these is in the gear stick up on, what you call it, in the console, up in the housing of the tractor, up in the cab. So what happens, this falls off, or the spring breaks. Actually a real light spring. This is a heavier one I put on last time, but it's obviously got a bit, how should we call it, damaged. It's such a shit design. And the main transmission's just as bad, but I think on that one, and I'll stand corrected on this, this is this woodruff key I was telling you about. That goes in there for the park lever. I better put a bit of tape around it before I lose him on the shed floor. So what happens, generally, the bit of spring drops down. This is upside down, of course. The gears are all spinning around. It drops down, goes in the fucking gears. Like, really, International? How many goes? They built it like this for, I reckon, 35 years. And it's every tractor, every inch of this sort of series, the 06s, the 706s, what do they have after that? The 86 series, 86B series, I think it was the 56 series was the start, wasn't it? Like the 656 or something. Anyway, from like the 1950s to the 1980s, they built all this shit the same. They never. This is such a crap idea. Like, look at it. Sorry, International, I'm bagging you. And I love International. I reckon they're a great brand. Were. This here, it's not even a proper hole. It just sort of hangs on here. Like, at least if you could. So, like, really? That's going to help? Look at it. That's really going to help. And this is upside down and it just drops onto your bloody gears when it falls off. Gets chopped up. Luckily, this got caught in an oil gallery. Such a shit design. But never fear, we've got it apart. I'll go to town. I'm going to go to town tomorrow. We'll get some. Go to town tomorrow. I'll get more. This was too heavy. This spring. It's only snapping my wrist. Okay, new spring fitted. Look at this. Works like a charm. Never jump out of gear now. And nearly every International tractor is the same. What a design fold. Oh, when this drops off, because that's hanging down the gearbox, where does it land? In the gears. Really, International? That was the best you could come up with. Such a shame, because it's a good tractor apart from these few minor things. You can make sure they're all working before you put the rest of the gearbox and cab back in. This one works. Just got to line it up so it goes into gear. There you go. So you can see that they're both working. You're safe to put the rest of it back on. Now you can see this has got the studs in to hang it on to help line it up. I'll put some gasket glue around. It's got a torn gasket, but I don't have any paper the right thickness, so it'll work. And it's as heavy as shit. And the secret about doing any of this is making sure you have everything lined up and ready. Look at that. Studs have already paid for themselves. He's spoken too soon. Like, really? Look at that. Those studs for lining shit up, gearboxes and barrel housings and stuff, it's a smart idea. I was told to do this. I was probably only 16 or 17. I actually wasn't told to do it. I overheard some people speaking. They weren't. I was too young to be included in the conversation, serious as fixing things. But it does work. And it works like a champion, eh? It's a really smart idea.